Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to call this a reboot series. In this podcast, I get to introduce myself as Dr. Eli Anthony Albalos, and we'll get into that. I'm also going to talk about this year. This year's been a little bit rough, and so I'm going to give some perspective on what's been going on in my life. But then also, we're going to talk about trying to find joy in life when you're going through struggles. So if you've tuned in, I appreciate you being here. Do me a favor, drop a like, hit a subscribe, thumbs up. But let's get started. This is Eli's Echo with your host, Dr. Eli Anthony Albalos. Okay, so I feel a little bit rusty. I'm breaking out the podcast equipment. I feel like I literally had to dust off some of this stuff, the camera, the mic. So for those tuning in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're not going to see anything different. But for the YouTube folks, you might see some interesting expressions, different angles. We're just, again, kind of dusting off those cobwebs. But in today's podcast, first off, I get to introduce myself as Dr. Eli Anthony Albalos. It's been a 2.5-year academic journey in a doctorate program at the University of Southern California. So I officially have my doctorate of education in organizational change and leadership. And so it is an academic doctorate. It is really weird. For YouTube folks, I'm going to show you this delightful gift I got from my wife. But it is a placard that actually says Dr. Eli Anthony Albalos. It's an acrylic. It looks marble. It's been really odd. So those folks that are tuning in on Spotify, you can't quite see that, but I will explain. I officially got my doctorate, completed it 2 weeks ago, and it has been quite a journey. And that's going to kind of lead into a little bit of what I've been going through this year. But over the past 2.5 years, I've been part of this program at University of Southern California, USC. Fight on. Go Trojans. And it was a semi-synchronous program. And so I met with an online cohort once a week for sometimes 4 hours a day. At minimum, it was 2 hours a day throughout the whole course. And I've been writing a 5-chapter dissertation basically for the past 2.5 years. So I don't think that anyone will read it, but I think I'll at least tell you the title of my dissertation because it is actually publicly available now on ProQuest. But the title is Facilitators for the Advancement of Hispanic Latinx Employees in Corporate Security. It's basically right in my wheelhouse of my industry. And so it's something that was near and dear. And I learned a lot in the process. I learned a lot about myself for sure. I'll talk about maintaining resilience when life is throwing all kinds of hurdles at you and still trying to keep up with your studies. But as I mentioned, that's all come to an end 2 weeks ago. And the past, let's call it 9 months, was a lot to earn the honorific of doctor. And maybe I'll maybe dive into it a little bit more on a separate podcast, kind of the nuances of it. But certainly, completing this doctorate contributes to kind of one of my topics today about kind of things that have been going on in my life in the past 9 months. So as I kind of broach subjects and move on to, a day in the life, or actually just a look back of the 9 months, I was laid off from Google in March. And I think my last podcast, honestly, was me opening up about being an ex-Googler. So it's interesting timing, I guess, that 9 months later, I'm coming up and creating this podcast and rebooting it, if you will. But 9 months ago in March, I was officially laid off from Google. And how that contributed to completing my doctorate was a blessing in disguise, right? And we're going to get to finding joy in a little, towards the end of the podcast. But I do want to talk about, I found joy and looked at the opportunity of being laid off as a silver lining because I poured myself into completing my doctorate. So, there's at least a glimpse into finding joy in your life. I'm going to talk about that shortly. But as we stay on track with being laid off in March, I feel like, and forgive me for those that are looking at me on YouTube, I do have handwritten notes here, and I was just trying to get this stuff on paper. But what I wanted to do with this podcast is kind of reveal not only my struggles, because I can guarantee that I am not the only one struggling in this economy and this job market. So for me, I just want to open up just so that folks have someone to relate to, right? And the reason why I feel it's important to have someone to relate to is I'm very active on LinkedIn, again, as I'm trying to really start up, as I'm trying to find a job, but simultaneously trying to build up my consulting company, to see if I want to push being self-employed. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. And what's interesting about LinkedIn is, yes, you do hear you read posts on LinkedIn from people that talk about, I'm happy to announce this job X. After applying to so many jobs, I'm so excited for this opportunity, which is fantastic. And I'm super excited for those folks. But what I haven't seen, and this is why I'm creating this podcast, is conversations or posts from people that are still in that struggle. I'm still in that struggle. Since March, I've applied to probably 150 jobs. And trust me when I've talked about imposter syndrome in the past. I have felt imposter syndrome to my bare bones since March. Because I've applied to so many jobs, literally over 150 jobs. Now, to be fair, if we were to say, let's work percentages, maybe 20% of those jobs were a stretch of my experience. My expertise, my experience is in management and corporate security organizations. So of the 150-ish, and I don't think that's much of an exaggeration, folks. I really don't. I've applied to probably 5 jobs on average every single week for the past 5 months. So if we average that out across 9 months, 5 jobs a week times 4 weeks, you're looking at 20 jobs a month for the past 9 months, at least 180 jobs. So about 150 is not too much of a stretch, because seriously, that's what I've been doing. So if we work with that number of 150, let's say 20% of those were a stretch of my abilities. So 30 jobs. That still leaves 120 jobs where I felt my qualifications met the job descriptions. And in that time, I have had one job offer that I did turn down because it was a job that was going to give me a title of a director, but the salary, the compensation, location, it was just not enough for me to be able to take that leap and jump and accept that job. So of the 150 jobs, I have been offered one position that I did turn down. That's still less than 1%. Of all the jobs I've applied to, I've only been offered one of those jobs. Less than 1% of the jobs that I've applied to, I was offered an actual position. So that's been my reality since March. And I know there's others out there that are struggling, which is why I'm putting this podcast. It's tough. I have 10 years of law enforcement experience, 13 years of experience in corporate security. I have my master's degree in applied leadership and management, and I just completed my doctorate in organizational change and leadership from the University of Southern California. I'm also going to be publishing a book next year, and I can't land a job. So trust me when I say that is a mind roller coaster. It has been quite an interesting reality. On top of that, in this economy, because I'm living off severance and things are going to be tight in a little while, just in all transparency, but my wife and I own a second home that was an Airbnb. And so we decided when we heard all these news, we were going to put the house on the market. The house has been on the market for almost 12 months. And we had one offer, and it was about $150,000 under asking. And we could not accept it. And that was 7 months ago that offer came in. And no offer since. Again, that's just the reality we're living in this economy. And what's interesting and the hard part, and this is what I hope people can relate to, is this is not a sob story. I'm not trying to say, oh, poor me, everyone, listen to everything that I'm going through. Can I get some sympathy and empathy? Well, you can empathize. That's okay. But I'm not asking for sympathy. All I'm doing is sharing because I know I'm not the only one out there going through this. And what's interesting is in the past 9 months, 10 months, as I'm going through imposter syndrome, as I'm doubting my abilities, as I'm questioning my abilities to complete my dissertation, because that was many, many hours of work, and I'll get into that shortly. But then you kind of question all your life's choices. Why did I spend all that money on a master's degree? Why am I spending all this money on a doctorate? And I can't get a job. That's just the reality. Now you see lots of LinkedIn posts out there about, well, all those jobs that say, no, that just wasn't for you. The one that says yes and you really like the company, that's where it was worth all the no's. And I get the philosophy behind that. And trust me, I understand maintaining motivation, because when you do find that one job, I hope that job you get is the one you're passionate about and not just the one you're accepting because you've had too many no's and you can't be picky anymore. So I hope that, yes, you find that one job that is going to be the one that is a perfect match for you. But the reality is, as I'm feeling this, and I know people can relate, that's hard to accept. It really is hard to accept that after applying to 150 jobs, only one employer said, okay, yep, you are worthy. Right? That just plays too many mind games on you. So, the point is, again, not asking for sympathy. Oh, poor Eli. Oh, poor Dr. Eli Anthopoulos. No, that's not what I'm looking for. All I'm saying is, this is my reality, and this is the reality of many, many others in the job workforce right now trying to find that next opportunity. And when you're trying to find that next opportunity, what's weighing on you is the worry and the fear. I've talked about fear. Some of it's real fear, being scared. Some of it's false events appearing real, F-E-A-R, fear. Because you're in your mind going, what if I can't support my family? What if I have to sell my house? What if I have to sell all my worldly possessions? What if? And that's a daily. So what I want folks to understand is, A, you're not alone. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people are in the same boat that I am. All I'm doing is trying to vocalize and say, I'm there with you. I feel it. I'm experiencing it with you. That doesn't mean much, but it is trying to empathize, right? Because ultimately, how do you keep a smile on your face when you have all that doubt and fear and you're reading other people's posts and you're trying the best you can to give them the thumbs up on their post or give a really supportive comment without going in your own mind, dude, I'm better qualified than that person. What makes them better? Again, it's all these self-defeating negative thoughts that go on. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying as an individual, I know I've felt that as well. So I'm here to say, I'm there with you. It is a reality. You're not the only one. what do we do about it, right? And so that's where what I've been trying to do the past few weeks, and this came, out of, Sunday service that I go through, and I've talked about it before. I am a Christian, but you don't need to be Christian to understand joy in life. And that's been something that I heard again at a service, but I'm trying to figure out what is real joy, right? There's happiness and there's joy. I can be happy on a daily basis, sure. I can put on a smile on a daily basis and be around friends and family and be happy in the moment, despite the potential anxiety I'm fighting, depression, fear. I can have all those feelings buried down and yet still find moments of happiness where I forget those things and put them aside and get distracted, which is pretty healthy for you, probably. Not bearing your emotions. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not to say here's what you should do. All I'm saying is how do we discover the difference between happiness and joy? And as I mentioned, you can be happy and have all these other things going through your mind and all these other emotions. Boy, what I've been trying to figure out is where is my joy in life? And I look at joy, and joy is, extreme contentment. Joy is a step above happiness. I've been looking around me, and it's, and I look at joy on the verge of love in life. I can say I am not happy every single moment of the day. I don't know if many of us are. But certainly as I'm going through all these challenges, I know there's definitely majority of my days where it's like I am fighting the mental demons just to keep one foot in front of the other and keep on trucking. But where's joy? And I've been asking myself that. And what's interesting is joy, as I mentioned, borders on love. What's your love in life? Maybe you have love of life, right? Being around friends and family, the external interactions with other folks, and you have a joy of life. But where's your joy in life? And what I mean is, what I've been finding myself realizing is, as I've been battling these thoughts, these anxiety, this fear of what if this? What if I lose worldly possessions? What if I have to sell maybe I have to sell all these statues behind me because I need to pay rent? So what? Who cares? I don't care if other people are going to judge me because I'm doing what I need to survive and support my family. So feel free to judge me if you're like, why is Eli having to sell all these things? Well, guess what? I'm going to get rid of worldly possessions because they don't bring me joy. My joy, bordering on love in life, is my wife or my sons. Shoot, even my dog. I am not a dog person, folks. My wife bought this Australian healer. Australian healer. Gosh, I'm going to get the whole thing wrong because I didn't think about talking about Ruger. Brought home Ruger, our healer, home 2 years ago. We had a ranch. I'm not a dog person, but she wanted a ranch dog. We want a ranch. Hey, it made sense. Folks, I'm telling you right now, I fell in love with this dog. My dog, Ruger. I'm not a dog person. I love him. He brings me joy. The feelings I have for that animal is joy. It sounds weird, I know, because I'm not a dog person, but I really can feel when I'm with Ruger and my interactions and the way he interacts with me as his owner, I'm providing for this animal, but this animal is showing me affection. I've been with my wife for 23 years. and part of joy and looking at silver linings since I've been laid off, I have spent more time one-on-one contact alone with my wife collectively in the past 9 months than I have the entire 23 years that we've been together. Like, seriously. Because the first 15 years of that, one or both of us were in law enforcement. So there were times where we saw each other maybe once a week for hours, maybe. So if I'm looking at joy and looking at silver linings since I've been laid off, my love in life is time with my wife. I took a trip to see my grandson, one of my stepsons, my daughter-in-law. That's joy. Next week, a few of my other sons are going to come here with their significant others. That's joy. That's my joy. That's my love in life. So regardless of what potential job employers think of me or don't think of me because they don't even respond to my applications, I continue on because I recognize I have my joy/love in life, and I've identified that. As I mentioned, the silver linings since March, I finished my doctorate. I honestly don't know what I was thinking when I started this doctorate program, because I don't know how I would have finished my doctorate if I was still full-time at Google. Like, I really don't. So is that a love in life, my dissertation? No, but that is joy. I've completed something that I think less than 1% of the population will ever do, and that's obtain a doctorate and have it published. It was hard work, folks. I think in the past 9 months, I probably spent roughly 750 hours. I was kind of doing some of the math about it, completing my 5-chapter dissertation. And that was just the past 9 months. I've been working on several portions of that dissertation for the past 2.5 years. And yet I've probably spent about 750 hours just to finish it and get it turned in and approved and reviewed and published since March. So that's the silver lining. That's joy in life. I can be extremely happy. I can be joyful about completing that because it's done. I am the first person in my family to obtain a doctorate, to obtain that honorific of doctor. I earned it through sweat, tears, no blood, expect maybe some paper cuts maybe, but no one's taking that away from me. That's joy. Now, is it self-centered joy? No, it really isn't, because my wife helped contribute to that work. The statement I'm sending to my family, to my sons, my daughter-in-law, my grandkids is like, look, if your dad/tata, which is my nickname for grandfather, can do it, then yeah, you can. So yeah, there's joy there. I also finished the final edit of my book. It took 2 edits in the past 9 months. But literally, as of a few days ago, my publisher has sent out the advanced reader copies, the ARC copies, out to 10 of my advanced readers to get feedback before we publish. That happened the past 9 months. Can there be joy in that? Absolutely. I'm not expecting to be a world-renowned best-selling author, no. But I will be a published author. No one else in my family has done that. And again, the message I'm sending to my kids, my grandkids, is if I can do it, yeah, they better be able to do it, and they can do it. So there definitely is joy there. So as I'm wrapping up here, it seems like it's a semi-short podcast. We're going on 25 minutes now. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough year for a lot of us. And I'm hoping that this podcast reaches some folks that are potentially maybe going through similar situations like I am and just trying to find that motivation. Now, am I walking away giving and and instilling motivation? I don't know. I hope so. Maybe the motivation just comes from the fact that you're not alone, right? I've had to fight the feeling of taking rejection personally from job employers, right? Because here's the reality. I might feel like I'm perfect for that job, but given the workplace, there's thousands of other people that are applying for these jobs as well that feel just as worthy as I do. I can't take it personally. And yeah, am I semi-afraid of what's going to happen the next couple months if I don't find that job? Sure. 100% I am. But I can tell you right now, I was more afraid, even as much as a month ago, of what others would think of me because I would feel like I've failed. And that worried me more than like being able to provide for my family. And that was weird. So if you're in that similar boat and you're worried about external reaction to your quote unquote failure, to that I say, who cares? We only have one life to live. And I know I'm going to land that job. Or my consulting company is going to launch. Or I'm going to be so busy with book sales that I don't have time for a job because I'm pushing that. Or I'm going to develop more online content to help others. Like, I know I don't care what others think of me because I'm not going to stop because I'm focusing on the joy and love in my life. My wife gives me purpose. My wife accepts me for my strengths, my weaknesses, my failures, my successes. Regardless, we're in this together. And I could sell every single material thing that we own, but I will still have love in my life through love with my sons, my wife, my grandkids, my family. And even if I have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment and build myself back up, that's what people are going to remember. Not the fact that, Eli, as a doctor, had to sell all his stuff. I can tell you what right now, they're not going to remember that. If that happens and that's my reality, so be it. But what people are going to remember is the fact that I picked myself up and I kept going. And I got that next job, that next career, or was able to provide for my family. That's what I want people to remember. And that's what I'm pushing for. Because that's what motivates me, is my joy in my life, the love I have in my life. And I don't care about external judgment. I don't need to validate myself to others. My wife accepts me, my kids accept me, my grandkids accept me. That's really all that matters. Even if I have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment, it is what it is. So to those that are going through this as well, find that joy in your life. There's a silver lining out there. I found my silver lining. I spent more time with my wife, finished my studies, got my book done. I've taken charge of my health. My blood pressure was through the roof when I was working in tech. My cholesterol was actually bad, and I felt I was healthy. But I've been able to get control of that in the past 9 months. So find your joy, find your purpose, and just understand you're not in it alone. Reach out to me through this podcast. You can reach out to me, make a comment, email me. But many of us are going through this reality of challenge and struggle in the workforce. So just remember that you're not alone if you're going through it. And even if you're not going through struggles in the workforce, but even just experiencing your own mental demons and battling with your own motivation or struggles, or worry about external judgment. Find that joy in your life. Find that love in your life. Is it easy? No, I can't say it's easy. I can definitely tell you my feelings have changed about my circumstances because I'm focusing more on my joy and and utilizing that as fuel for motivation rather than using fear of judgment as motivation. Oh, I got to keep job hunting because what are other people going to think about me if I don't get that job or that title? Who cares? Like literally, who cares what everyone else thinks? As a spiritual person, there's only one person that's going to judge me, and that's the Lord. As a person on this earth, the one person I care most about is my wife. And second to that are my kids and my grandkids. And depending on the day, they kind of flip-flop because I'll tell you right now, my grandson is amazing. But they are what matter to me on this earth. So as long as I can provide joy and love for them and show my affection for them, everyone else doesn't really matter. I'll keep going. I'll pick myself up. I'll dust myself off. So if you're going through this as well, find that joy, find that motivation, but don't worry about external judgment. It's not worth it. Who cares? No one's going to remember. No one is going to remember about your failures. They'll recognize you for your successes. So with that, folks, that's it. I appreciate your time today as I am rebooting this podcast. Please, if you are struggling and just need someone to reach out to, feel free. Reach out to me, email me, hit me up on LinkedIn, leave a comment. All my information is provided on these podcasts. I do have a handful of folks that I mentor. If you just need someone to talk to, you just understand you're not in this alone. So with that, please, wherever you're listening to me at, watching me from, drop a like, leave a comment, refer me to your friends. I really would appreciate it. But that's it from now. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to Eli's Echo with your host, Dr. Eli Anthony Albalos.